Yeah, hi and good morning. It's Nick Struan here coming to you from Perth in Western Australia. And I thought this morning, well, it's actually afternoon now here in Perth, sorry. I wanted to talk to you about the relationship between money and dreams. Many people seem to have a problem with this, and I certainly did for many years. Remember always that I'm not here to give you all the answers. I'm here to get you to think about your future and how you will, conduct yourself for your business into the future. Okay, so please don't look at the situation to the future. Okay, so please don't look at the situation as says I'm trying to tell you what you should do and not do. I'm not qualified to do that. However, I want to share some ideas and some thoughts with you about perhaps you want to call it deep thinking or whatever, but some is based on my own experience, and also I have read a lot of books and spoken to a lot of people and attended hundreds of seminars. So I feel somewhat qualified to at least talk on some of these subjects. So maybe you find them interesting, maybe you don't, but here I go anyway. So I wanted to discuss the relationship between money and dreams. All right. Now let's first look at perhaps what is a dream, right? And a dream is not necessarily what we normally think it is. Like we say, oh, it's my dream to become rich and wealthy and that. But really, a dream is much larger than that. Okay, because a dream like that seldom has the power to actually propel you to do anything serious about it, right? I mean, yes, we're saying I want to have a new car. I want to have a new house. I want to be able to go on a holiday. I want to be able to do this or the other. But the question here is, how does that make you feel? Does that make you feel like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's going to happen, right? Or do you get that little voice inside your head going, yeah, fat chance, right? But we're going to start somewhere, and some of us, like myself, for instance, has spent a lot of years, trying to figure out what's actually going on. And I know some of you out there are probably very clever on this subject, but for me, I'm maybe a bit slow because it's taken me a long time. So my whole point here is to try to sort of give you some insights and maybe some of the things that I say will make it go a little bit faster for you. So let's talk about this dream. The dream is like a big thing, something that you perhaps could not finish in a lifetime, right? That's really a dream. Let's look at Walt Disney. Walt Disney, he had a dream, right? And that dream 20 years or more, 30, 40, 50 years on is still a dream and will probably continue for a long time, right? And I'm sure you can think of other people who have a similar experience. So what is a dream? Well, a dream is something big, something, and you need to be able to think big in order to have a big dream, obviously. There's a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. You may want to pick up on and read. And it's an ability. It's something that we sort of had to start thinking about, going, okay, well, I'm gonna have a big dream, yeah. So now I'll tell you something like about my big dream, because already in the age of probably 18 or so, I always wanted a better life. I wanted to have a better lifestyle. I wanted to do, I did not, I recognize even back then, right? That I did not want to do what everybody was doing because it seemed crazy to me, right? I hated getting up in the morning, having to do an apprenticeship and this sort of thing, right? And I tried, believe me, I went up in the morning and said goodbye to my mother, and then I went somewhere else and had a sleep. You know, I tried until the foreman, he, you know, contacted my mother and said, you know, where's Nick? You know, what, you know, why he hasn't been to work for a week or two, right? And, you know, so look, I already then realized that it's unnatural for us to wake up in the morning and actually decide to go to work, right? You know, I'm sure there's other things you would love to do rather than do that. So why do we do it? Well, we do it because we have to, I suppose. When we're younger, we may not because we live at home and we don't have that much of responsibility. But as we go older, then we start accumulating things, and we sort of move into a situation where we're debt propelled. We have to pay off things, so we have to get money to pay off things, and the more we get into debt, the bigger the problems become. So I went through this many times. In fact, I over the years I tried many times to build businesses, and I became a builder, and that is not an easy game. And you know, they say there's 600 things that can go wrong, and most of them does go wrong, right? So, and I'm sure in your occupation there's challenges there, yeah. Like I go to the gym 3 times a week now in the morning, and I have to pass a section of freeway, and I get to the first part, and that's okay, but the second part every morning is full of traffic. Yeah, and it's queuing up, and that's like 20 minutes out of the main city here, Perth, right? You know, and I remember back when I had to sit in the traffic every morning trying to get to the other side of Perth to do some work on either a construction project or a house or whatever up there, right? So that is, and I hated it. I must be honest with you. I never liked it because, again, such a waste of time. And going back to my childhood, and that's where my big dream comes from, right? Because I felt cheated. I really felt cheated, right? Because I spent my whole childhood living in a, you know, a middle-class family, but we didn't have a lot, but we didn't sort of like suffer that much either. You know, I remember Christmases, you know, where people gave presents. My uncle and auntie, they were fairly well off. They had their own business, but my brother and I was given socks for Christmas, and my cousins, nieces were given trains, right? Electric. Who can remember that one? Anyway, trains and stuff and walkie-talkies, and it was very exciting back then. But for me, getting socks and pants and that sort of stuff was not that fantastic, right? But I'm sure you can relate to that. So let's, you know, let's just look at that my dream. Then I felt cheated. I felt not. This is not it. You know, I mean, I want to have all these things, right? I want to do so. You know, I started already then looking at actually becoming or doing something different, right? I started, believe it or not, as a mechanic, and it was not, and for my own sake, my mother thought I should do something with my hands. My brother, who was a clever guy, he went the other way. He went through the college and the university and that sort of stuff. And I was sort of like pushed towards the other direction because I was sort of more hands-on, if you like. Now, I thought even earlier than that was not a good thing, right? You know, because people show ability to do things with their hands, that doesn't mean that they cannot learn something with their brain, right? So I think that was a major injustice at that time. Anyway, that was the sentiment also in those days, right? So I started as a mechanic, and again I hated it because you know, the people at the place that I was working was treating me rather badly, and I really hated going back there every single day. So eventually I stopped it, and I became, you know, became a carpenter apprentice, not because I really wanted to do that either, right? But yeah, my mother thought that was a great idea. So, and she knew someone who worked in a big company, and they managed to get me in. And this is where I told you before that I tried to escape that whole situation and stay away, but it didn't work. I eventually finished that, and then as soon as I could, I immigrated to Australia by myself at the age of, I think, 19 or so. So yeah, coming to Australia, living in a camp there, I had 3 months to become somewhat, you know, occupied at an employment of some kind. And I was just towards the end when I managed to get a job just for a week, doing some carpentry stuff similar to in Bunnings. We have a major Bunnings here in Australia, which is a sort of like a hardware store. And I did a bit of work for them. And then I started subcontracting. You know, I saw this ad in the paper, you know, like you can start next day, and carpenter wanted and whatever. Now, there was just one problem with that. I didn't have any tools. I only arrived in Australia with my suitcase and a hammer. So I brought my hammer because I thought, well, I'm going to have something with me. So that was like a little girl would bring a doll, I suppose. But anyway, I had my hammer, and I met this guy on the site, and I don't know, I'm sure you understand what a subcontractor is, but the actual guy was, you know, either a builder or someone similar to that, and he was contracting to, you know, some sort of a company, or maybe he was the company. But anyway, he hired me as a subcontractor, which means that I do part of the building, and my job was to actually build this 200 square meter timber framed house. And in Adelaide, at that time where I actually arrived, I since moved to Perth, but I arrived in Adelaide. It was 45 degrees in the summertime, and you know, if you're sitting in a cool place, well, you know, you can probably not imagine 45 degrees, but 45 degrees is really difficult to work in because it's really, really hot, especially when you come from a cooler climate. So anyway, I started there, and I quickly realized I had no idea what I was doing. No idea whatsoever. You imagine me standing there in my long, you know, my shorts and having, and the guy is standing there going, so where are you going to start? Right? And I tried to look really knowledgeable. So, you know, he showed me the plans, right? And I said to him, oh, yeah, no, I know all about that. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. But I just have a few questions. Yeah, okay, yeah, 2 questions. What's the takeoff? You know, what's the takeoff plan? And also, what about these concrete gutters? You know, like I come from Europe, and I'm not familiar with concrete gutters. You know, what's this? And he said, look, concrete gutters is on the road. You're looking at the road. And as you can imagine, I felt really smart then. These were the concrete gutters that allow the water when it rains to, you know, to go into the drains, right? And the takeoff plan, I had no idea what that was. Now, don't forget, I don't speak English very well at that time either, right? So takeoff plan, I thought it had something to do with airplanes, but what it was actually, you know, the timbers designed for each part of the house, and how many pieces of each that belongs to wherever, right? But anyway, he was obviously desperate for a carpenter, so he got me to do the job, right? Now, the problem there was no power on site, so I had to borrow his generator, right? And his lead and his saw. because I had none. So, yep. And then he left me. Okay, 45 degrees heat, 200 square meters of timber frame housing to do, and a generator with no petrol, and the cords, and a saw, and my hammer. Yeah. So I don't know what you can imagine how that feels, but I didn't feel too good. So I recognized, especially when I started, what I did first, I walked around in the area and I tried to see what other carpenters had done, to learn from a mentor, to learn from someone, right? But of course, the other guys, most of them would not want to do, be a mentor to me, because I'm actually stealing their jobs, right? In a way. So, but I got an idea about what they were doing, and I started, building something. But towards the end, when I got to the roof, luckily, the little job I mentioned to you, I actually got a week before I started. I met a carpenter there, an Aussie guy, and I rang him. I managed to find him and get his number. And I rang him and said, look, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm supposed to put this roof on, and I don't know where to start. Now, you may wonder whether I didn't learn this in Denmark. Yes, I did learn this in Denmark before I left, but not for Australia housing. The structure, construction for Danish houses is totally different in many ways. Many of the principles, of course, are the same, but I was just like a new apprentice. So my knowledge of what I retained of knowledge from the studies was very limited. So anyway, he said, no problem, I'll come out. And in Denmark at the time, we were doing beautiful profiles of wood, and then we would lay out our timbers in these profiles and then make all the trusses and everything like that. So that was my experience, right? And when he arrived on the site, he said, no, forget about that. Okay, that's takes too long time, right? So he said, just put the timbers up here and I'll just mark them for you, and then we can cut them out and you can put them up yourself, right? All of it, I said. And he said, yeah, no problem. Yeah, okay. Wow. So anyway, he took like an old square. I don't know if you are familiar with the tools of the trades, but yeah, this is like a big old square. And then he stuck a bit of a stick on, a bit of some timber thing across it, and set out the angles, because if you got the upright and the length, you can obviously, make an angle. And then he proceeded with all his angles and marked the whole thing out. It took him less than 20 minutes, right? And I thought, wow, that's amazing. So, yeah, so that's, anyway, to cut a long story short, I did manage to cut that out, and then started putting it all together, and I did finish the house. Now, I did have some help. I did manage from the camp I was at. I befriended an English guy who just arrived from England too, with his whole family, and he was so unhappy. He really, really didn't want to be there and felt very uncomfortable. Now, the other thing that was a bit not so good for him was he was a chain smoker. So he smoked continuously, one cigarette after the other all the time, and his health was not so fantastic. So after he decided to work with me 2 or 3 days, and he was gone, right? He couldn't handle the 45 degrees heat, and he just went back and took his family and went back to England. So I was left there on my own to finish this whole project, and it seemed to me that it took forever. Right, forever. But let me just get back to the thing about feeling cheated. As a young man, I felt cheated because there was no one there that could actually guide me. There was no mentors that was prepared to teach people. Yeah, of course, in the trades, there was people there. In my apprenticeship, there were people there that sort of was teaching me something, and I was learning from that. But what about life? What about life? I mean, as a young man, what about life? What about, unfortunately, my mom and dad got divorced early on, so I did not have other advice than from my uncle, which was, of course, appreciated. He was in business by himself. And I could see all the things that he had accumulated. And that, of course, was a motivation for me. But he had his business to run and not much time to sort of talk with me and sort of guide me along the road. So as a young boy, and, you know, I love my mother, always have. But, you know, if your mother is not in a business like situation, it's very, very hard to guide anyone. And of course, being middle class, we were somewhat poor, and on, you know, a poor cannot guide, you know, someone to become rich. You have to learn. You have to have a mentor who can actually, you know, who actually done the work himself or herself, who's got the information that can pass on. And it's not just theory. It's just like, hey, look, this is what you do, and this is what happens. And when you find that, which took me, mind you, took me at least, you know, 40 years to find one like that. So if you have come across this this video, you're doing well, you know, because I'm the messenger to lead you on to the mentors who actually has, you know, the runs on the boards, and who knows how to do this without the shadow of a doubt, right? So, yeah, but anyway, let me just cruise on from there. So I went through various different projects and various different things, and I decided to change because I did not like the outdoor life. So I became a life insurance salesman at one point in time. That happens a lot when people try to shift their occupation from one place to another. And I became a teacher. Now, the teaching started very early, actually, at the same time as my apprenticeship, because I became a martial arts teacher. Bruce Lee was just coming out at that time, and I was motivated, and I was fired up, and I had my first school in Copenhagen at 17 years of age. So you know, over the next 30 or 40 years, I did both things. I worked both day and evening. In the daytime, I had some sort of a job, and in the evening, I taught martial arts almost 6 or 7 days in the evening every night. So, yeah, I have taught over hundreds of students, if not coming to thousands over the years. And again, I look at all these people, and this is where my dream, I'm getting to the point here of my dream, you know, because again, I felt cheated. And then I looked at all these kids and people that I was teaching over the years, and all of them, now, when I say all of them, I know there's some of you out there that are quite happy doing whatever you're doing, and, you know, fantastic, that's great. You know, every man's dream or woman's dream is sacred, and just do whatever you want to do. For those of you out there who's struggling with finding your way, you know, to get more out of life, well, I'm here to tell you that you are on the right track. And towards the end of this video, I will give you some links, and you can pursue them, and you can get even more information from, as I said, the mentors that really knows how to do this stuff. Okay, so, but anyway, I felt cheated, and I see all these people who has dreams, right, coming out of their heads, and you say to, like, most little kids, for instance, you know, what do you want to be? You know, I want to be a fireman. I want to be this. I want to be that, and whatever. So what happens? Why doesn't I think the stats are saying 98% of people, right, never achieve their dream. Why is that? And look, I have found out over the years that part of it, if not most of it, happens in the school system, right? Because when we actually attend school, now remember that school was never intended to make the best out of you or me, right? The school system was originally developed for rich kids to, you know, to put, you know, to make them prepared for their, you know, their illustrious lifestyles. But later on, it was found out that people, you know, there could be a benefit of teaching the kids to work in factories, and especially during the Industrial Revolution and or just after. And you know, that's what happened. Your kids now are not being trained how to live life. They're not being trained how to understand, you know, how life works. No, no, no. You know, your kids and mine, I have a few myself who is now grown up, but they've been taught how to be good little workers. Yeah. To how to you know, toe the line, and to, you know, just do what they're told, and everything will be okay. So that's one reason, and that's becoming part of my big dream, right? Which I've had for a long, long time, ever since I felt cheated, right? That I think I read a story once where a 16-year-old back in 1800s in Japan would lead an army of 50,000 people. Now you try and imagine that, right? 16-year-old. Have you got a son or daughter at home who's 16 and who could lead an army of 50,000 people? I mean, it just shows the capability of, and you know, the untold amount of talents that young people they do have. And I would be extremely grateful if I have something to do with changing that perception over the next few years. And as I said, that is my dream, a dream that possibly will take a long time to evolve, but eventually, hopefully, it will come. Right? So, you know, teaching children about life and how to live life. That's why I became a life coach, for one thing. I wanted to share some of that knowledge and maybe cut short some of that long, long time it's taken me to get the knowledge. Okay. So let's just talk about that children in particularly are able to do more. Like adults are too, but as adults we have been programmed for so many years about what we can do. So if you are one of those who really, really want to progress and move forward, as I said, stay on here for a while, and I'll give you the information that may change your life. But I'm all about promoting an education that will change the new generation's view on how things are done. If you ask any businessman on how he's doing, you know, and if he's making any money, he will look at you straight faced and say, yeah, God, I am actually packing it. You know, I'm getting more and more money that I don't even know what to do with, right? And you know, it's an outright lie, because most people are struggling. I'm an internet marketer and I promote people in Google, and I come across so many, many small businesses that, you know, are struggling every day to find customers and clients. But they're just not switched on to the fact that, you know, things has changed a little bit from the yellow pages, and everything happens online now. And if you're going to have an advertising budget, you need to spend it perhaps on online. Yeah. But anyway, that's a different story altogether. So that's my dream, that's my path, and that will happen and probably take a long time to get there. Now, so what about short-term goals? Short-term goals, well, you know, that's the next step. We have to find out where we're at right now, and then we have to decide on what's our next point of call, right? Well, the next point of call for me, anyway, which I'm working on fantastically fast, and I can't wait to get to that point where I become absolutely financially free, right? And that, of course, is the dream of many, many people. But when I say dream, remember, that's not the dream. That's just a goal along the way to your dream, right? Because I said before, the poor can't help the poor. So no matter how sweet, beautiful, sexy ideas you have about helping mankind, they're not going to be realized unless you have some extra cash that you can use to do something with it. I have tried. I went to Cambodia for 4 months and tried to established a school there to teach, people that has very little money. I won't say they're all poor, but a lot of the people were. But the cost of running an operation like that is staggering. Every day is that demand for you for finance and for extra cash. And unless you want to be able to get money from overseas somehow to help you, it's literally impossible. I'm not saying impossible because other people have done it again, but for me, it did not work, and I had to shut it down for a time and wait until I am much more financial and I can do this in a better way. So, yeah. So again, everything is possible to a willing mind, but time may be the factor. Okay, so let's look at the dreams, right? So let's look at discussing what is the next step for you, and also, are you on the right track? Yeah, are you on the right track? Are you able to, in what you're doing currently now, are you able to do what you really want, live the way you want, travel where you want to go, and with whom, and whenever you like? Do you care? If you don't, then it doesn't matter. But if you do, then it does matter, right? And don't do what I have done, work for 40 years realizing that my ladder of success was leaning up against the wrong wall, right? Take note and listen, to some of my suggestions here. At least, if nothing else, check it out. Check it out, okay? So anyway, that's the dream. You must have these goals, something that you can actually set yourself up. So of course I'm not going to teach you goal setting because I'm sure you can figure that out all by yourself. But remember that the dream is like the sun. The sun pulls you towards it, right? So you don't have to fight to get there. The sun really wants you to get there, all right? So, it's a done deal. Don't worry about how, because I'm talking about here how, you have a wonderful, wonderful mind, and the mind actually works to help you, not all the time, right? But the mind is there to we work in the law of attraction, it's called, where we're actually like a magnet, and we are drawing to us what we think about most of the time, right? So if you're thinking about a certain thing you really want to have happen, right, then it will come to you. As a side note, let me talk to you about when I was driving with my daughter. I had to pick her up every week because I was a father, or a weekend father, if you like. My wife and I decided to part ways, and I looked after her from Friday to Sunday, and my wife looked after her during the week. So every Friday I would pick her up and we would drive about 30 kilometers. And in that time we would play games, right? And those games, was a game in particular called Spotto. Spotto. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but if you're from Australia, you may have. But what the idea is that you can get specially designed number plates in Australia for individual private number plates, and they're blue. So as we're driving through the traffic, we were playing this game of saying, hey, whenever we see one, we'll go Spotto. And the one who did it first would get a point. And the one who got to 10 points first would actually win. Okay, so imagine this, we're driving down the road, and my little girl, which was, like 4 years old or 5 years old at the time, would go, Spotto, Spotto. And we had lots of fun doing that, right? Now, we did this probably at a period for probably, I don't know, 3 months or 4 months or something, yeah? About 19 to 45 days or something. 90 days or more, right? So then I can't remember exactly what happened. Maybe we changed or we did something else or whatever, but we didn't play that game anymore. But what I want to tell you is that the month after that, all I could see was blue number plates. Whenever I was driving somewhere, all I saw was blue number plates, right? I've never seen so many blue number plates. And I thought, well, what's going on here, right? It's ridiculous, right? Every time I went somewhere, I would see blue number plates. Now, how do you explain that? Is that coincidental? No, I don't think so, right? So let's just sum it up on my story here altogether, right? First of all, you're going to have a dream. It's going to be a big dream. It's going to be like the sun shining, right? Yeah. And you are moving towards the sun. Yeah. Then you're going to make yourself individual goals along the way. And then you're going to think about this most of the time. Now, there's many various ways to do that. You can write all your goals down on a piece of paper and look at it 2 or 3 times a day, especially in the morning and in the evening, to remind yourself. And you're going to try to feel what it feels like to be in that new situation or new circumstances that you are dreaming about. Okay? And then what will happen is that the more you dream about this, the more the let's say the law of attraction will actually start pulling to you situations and circumstances aligned with where you want to go. Now, you don't have to believe me. That's, again, I'm not here to tell you something that you have to believe just because I'm saying it. But let me just put the point back to, for a period of 90 days or more, that my daughter and I, we concentrated and thought about blue number plates. And the next 30 days after that, if not more, all these blue number plates kept coming into my life, right? So it works, but there's a couple of prerequisites here, right? You're going to have a strong reason to do something, which means you're going to have a strong dream, right? Also, you have to fake it until you make it. So you have to start believing it, of course, right? You cannot 1 minute go, "No, I don't believe that crap," and then going, "Oh, yes, I really believe it, and let's be positive and happy." No, you have to start moving towards actually believing that it will happen, okay? And I'm sure if you look at your life already, there's circumstances in your life where this has happened already. This is nothing new. The movie The Secret came out, or a few years ago now, and maybe, I don't know, many millions of people have taken this on and realized, and they thought, wow, fantastic, wow, great. But the law of gravity has been on this earth ever since you got born, and you never go, "Oh, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't," right? All you have to do is just go out on the nearest building and jump off, and you'll see it's working, right? Okay. And so is the law of attraction. The law of attraction is a law, a universal law. It will happen whether you like it or not. Whatever you think about most every day is what you are getting or who you are becoming. So I want you to take this message to heart. And again, whether you choose to do something with it or not is not my business, okay? That is just up to you, all right? Now, I have put a link below, or I will put it there, so that you can click on that, and you can get a contact with my mentors, the ones who are guiding me through this minefield, right? A minefield. That's what the world looks like to me, And I read somewhere in a book that if you are going to go through a minefield, it makes sense that you follow the footsteps of someone who has gone there already, right? And that's what I started to do now a year ago, and I have never looked back since. So take my advice, do yourself a favor, and click on the link below. Yeah. Or if you like to follow more information, go to lifecoach.rocks. So that's HTTP // lifecoach rocks, ROCKS. All right, and that's my website, and there's much more information on there about many different things I feel passionate about, and if I can help you in any way, so be it. I'm there, and you can contact me, and we can talk some more. But anyway, I hope you has enjoyed my little talk here, and I wish you all the best on your continued journey. So bye for now. Bye-bye.